Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, he dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heave is good. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining.
Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. Ja Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me. Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parish. The Grizzlies beat the Spurs again. That's now 8 straight wins for the Grizzlies. That is tied for the second longest win streak in franchise history. I think we're allowed to be honest with ourselves and admit that it's just a little bit sad that, as of last season, the team had never won more than 8 games in a row in a season. Last year they won 11 straight. Now this year, yet another pretty solid win streak as they put together 8 consecutive victories. Obviously still the longest active winning streak in the NBA. They keep pace with the Nuggets, who won after the Grizzlies did on Wednesday night. Grizzlies and Nuggets still tied for first place in the Western Conference. Still tied for the best home record in the entire NBA. Both of those teams are giving themselves a little bit of separation from the rest of the pack, which is very, very good. They're both 3.5 games up on the Pelicans, who are in third place. Very importantly, they're 5.5 games clear of the 5 seed, which is where you wouldn't have home court advantage in the first round. But the Grizzlies playing very, very well right now. This one was very similar to some of the previous games. Not just that they played the same opponent for the second straight game. Once again, they had a huge first half. They had a massive second quarter. And then the second half, a little bit underwhelming. You get outscored, you hang on, you win, you don't cover. Not that that's important, unless you really believe in the maxim that good teams win, great teams cover. But big picture, you're just happy that you beat an opponent, a familiar opponent. It's hard, I guess, in the NBA to bring your A game every single night and squash the Spurs. I mean, the Grizzlies made 14 out of 23 three-pointers in this game. That is their best three-point shooting game of the season. It's the first game of the year where they've made over half of their three-pointers. They made 63.6% of their three-pointers, and they beat the Spurs by 6. I'm not going to worry about it. The 135 points the Grizzlies scored is their second highest scoring game of the year. The 129 they allowed, that's the second most points they've allowed in a game this season. To update the stats like we do, the Grizzlies are now 18-1 this season when scoring 120 or more. They're 6-0 when scoring 130 or more. The one I like now is the record when scoring at least 110 points, and the Grizzlies are 26-2 when scoring 110 points or more this season. I like that because it's not that rare to score 110 points. Actually, it's very, very common. The Grizzlies average 116.8 points per game. So if they get just remotely close to their average scoring output, they win at an incredible rate. By the way, the 135 points, I said it's the Grizzlies' 6th game this year of 130 or more, and they're 6-0. Last year, by the way, they were 11-0 when they scored at least 130 points. That's 17 games in the last 2 seasons alone where the Grizzlies have scored over 130 points in the regular season. Before Ja Morant and Taylor Jenkins got here, in the entire history of the Grizzlies franchise, they had 13 130-point games. They have 17 in the last 2 seasons, last year and a half, exactly 1.5 years, because the Grizzlies are 41 games into their season with that very nice 28-13 record. I'm going to get to the individual performances, Ja Morant destroying the Spurs once again, but a little bit more about the scoring and specifically that second quarter scoring. We've been monitoring it where the Grizzlies, for whatever reason, have been lighting it up in the second quarter. Well, guess what? On Wednesday night against the Spurs, they set a franchise record for most points in the second quarter with 44. Remember, the previous high was 43, which had happened 3 times previously, and 2 of them were in the last 7 days. A week ago on Thursday, they had 43 in the second quarter. On Sunday, they had 43 in the second quarter. And then last night, on Wednesday night, they had 44 in the second quarter. Updating the version of this stat that I like, just because not everybody listens to every episode, as sad as that makes me. But in the first 2,184 games the Memphis Grizzlies played over a span of 28 years, they had 1 second quarter with more than 42 points. In the last 4 games, they have 3 with more than 42 points. What's going on? Fair question. I guess very simply, the bench is making jump shots. Historically, or so far this season, I've typically liked the lineups that they start the second and fourth quarters with, even though they haven't performed maybe as well as we thought they would. A lot of times it's Jaren and Desmond Bane coming back in, playing with the second unit. On Wednesday night, it was Bane and Steven Adams coming back in, playing with the second unit. Well, the guys are hitting jump shots now. Like, Bane is back. Bane made a bunch of jump shots. Zaire Williams is making his shots. Tyus Jones was on a heater. Despite not getting the start, Tyus Jones had an excellent game in his 18 minutes of playing time. But the Grizzlies made their first 6 3-pointers in the second quarter against the Spurs on Wednesday, and all that contributes to now suddenly it's not a huge weakness for the Grizzlies when Ja Morant comes out of the game. Like Zaire Williams, okay, I didn't intend to start with Zaire before getting to Ja, but here we go. Zaire made a 3-pointer in the 8th straight game, extending his streak, a career-long streak. Zaire's mid-range game in this one, looking very calm, very cool, very collected, and drilling some jumpers. It was great to see. In the past 4 games now, Zaire is averaging 11 points in 20 minutes per game. Zaire looking like that scorer that the Grizzlies need and someone who can perform in the half court on offense by getting those jump shots from the mid-range. Has he recovered a loose ball yet? According to the NBA.com stats page, no, he has not. But everyone up and down the roster, playing very, very well. Santi Aldama made both of his threes. Tyus Jones, 16 points, 3 assists, 2 steals in just under 18 minutes. He made both of his threes. Tyus Jones has made multiple threes in 7 straight games. During the 8-game win streak, he's making 47% of his 3-pointers. His season average is up to 10.9 points per game and 39.6% on his 3-pointers. So because of the bench performing, because of maybe its opponent too, that is a huge component here. You're playing the Hornets and the Magic and the Spurs. These are not good defensive teams. And the Grizzlies are finding their rhythm. We've seen this in previous seasons. They found their rhythm last year where all of a sudden they went on these huge scoring binges. And they're currently in the midst of one. And I like it. And it's okay if the defense slips up every now and then. All right, now let's talk about Ja Morant. Ja Morant was sensational, returning from missing his previous 2 games. He posted 38 points, 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Very encouragingly, he made 3 out of 5 3-pointers, part of that Grizzlies season-best 3-point barrage. Ja Morant loves playing the Spurs, apparently. He averaged 41 points per game against them last year, notably because of a 52-point scoring outburst. Now in the last 2 seasons, in 5 games against the Spurs, Ja Morant averaging 38.6 points. By the way, I don't think I've said it yet. The perfunctory updating of the stat, the Grizzlies have now beaten the Spurs 9 straight. 10 if you count the play-in victory in 2021. But Ja Morant was awesome. Also got Jakob Poeltl again. Come on now. That dunk was so good. It was slightly different, I feel, than any of his other dunks. Something about how he pulled it back and slightly adjusted it. I feel like this was a unique dunk in the arsenal of all Ja dunks, in the pantheon of great Ja dunks. This one goes in there because I think it was just slightly different, and it was breathtaking like most of his dunks are. Really, really spectacular. The viral clip of him saying, I guess, Pirtle didn't get the memo. That was a joke, and I know everyone's going to take that 2 seconds out. He followed it up by saying, no, I'm just kidding. Jakob Pirtle is a great shot blocker. If I didn't try to dunk it, he's going to block that shot. Of course, no one will ever hear that because the one soundbite of Ja being cocky is going to have legs. No one wants full context. But Ja Morant was awesome. Jaren Jackson Jr. I want this guy to be an all-star. It's going to be very, very hard. If you haven't listened to the Fast Break Breakfast episode for this week, you should. We picked our all-star reserves, and it's really hard, and Jaren is honestly a fringe candidate. There are a lot of deserving candidates from the Western Conference to make the all-star team. It's going to be extremely hard for Jaren Jackson Jr. to make it just because, he missed a bunch of games and because defense isn't that sexy. He needs to have more games like this one, honestly, where he puts up points and rebound numbers. People value those for whatever reason way more. Is getting 12 rebounds more valuable than blocking 5 or 6 shots? Usually no. Rebounds are very replaceable, very fungible. They go to anybody. And this is a good time to mention that NBA.com media survey where they picked Domantas Sabonis as the best rebounder in the NBA. Steven Adams was second. Outrageous to me. I know Sabonis leads the NBA in rebounds per game, but you got to factor in who's actually moving bodies around and who can't. Which player, if they have you boxed out, you're not getting the rebound. I mean, that's Steven Adams for me. But Jaren picks up 12 rebounds. That ties his career high, his career regular season high. He had 14 in a playoff game against the Timberwolves last year. He gets those 21 points, the 12 rebounds, the 2 blocks, extending his streak of multi-block games to 12, lengthening his franchise record. His streak of 6 straight games with 3 or more blocks came to an end. This was the 11th 20-point, 10 rebound of Jaren's career. 9 of those games have been in the last 12 months. Jaren is stepping it up on the rebounding front, and it seems like his offense is progressing very, very nicely. The defensive numbers we know are there. The Grizzlies have a 103.7 defensive rating when he's on the court. Opponents now have improved their field goal percentage when Jaren is on the court. They're all the way up to 41% when he's on the court, which, by the way, is still first among all NBA players. If you look at all NBA players who have been on the court enough minutes for their opponent, the opposing team, to shoot 500 times, we're talking 350 players. Jaren is first in opponent field goal percentage. By the way, Dillon Brooks is 7th. Also clocking in, Brandon Clark, who missed this game with that sore hip. He's 9th. Ja Morant is 12th. Hey now. And John Conchar is 15th. Like Dillon, all right, Dillon's in a tiny bit of a slump here. He did pass O.J. Mayo to move into 10th in the franchise scoring list. 10th all-time, most points as a Memphis Grizzly, Dillon Brooks. But he was 3 for 12 from the field. Only had 7 points in the 8-game winning streak. He's only making 37.5% of his attempts. He's 29% from 3. If you take out the Raptors game, which started the win streak, where Dillon was very awesome, he had 25 points, 6 assists, made 4 threes in that one. If you take out that game, he's only hitting 23% of his three-pointers in the last 7 games. Honestly, it's pretty great to have a shooting slump occur while the team is winning. Get that out of the way. But of course, the efficient scoring isn't the calling card for Dillon. It's not what we need from Dillon. I mean, we could use it. We're not going to turn it down, but it's icing on the cake. Dillon hustles, Dillon defends. He provides that spark, that hint of madness. And he does pick up, we can joke about it, but he does create those Kobe assists where when the offense bogs down, he will get a shot up and he will get it up on the rim. So Steven Adams can get an offensive rebound. So Jaren can get an offensive rebound. And they post elite defensive numbers. Like Jaren has that awesome defensive rating. Jaren and Dillon on the court together, the Grizzlies have a 102 defensive rating, so it's even better. By the way, when Ja is on the court with Jaren and Dillon, the Grizzlies' defensive rating is 100. They allow 100 points per 100 possessions. Good job, Ja. By the way, Ja's defensive rating when Dillon and Jaren are both off the court, the team has a 115 defensive rating. So Ja's getting a little of the group project credit there. But Jaren Jackson Jr., his stats, his defensive stats, I don't want to forget to mention these as we campaign for his All-Star campaign. Jaren is up to 3.2 blocks per game. He's still at 11% block percentage. He actually dipped below it briefly. He's back up to 11% block percentage, which would be the highest block percentage for a season ever. That is what percentage of an opponent's 2-point field goal attempts Jaren blocks when he's on the court. Jaren is the betting favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. That's despite missing the first 14 games of the season. The Grizzlies, when Jaren plays, are 18-7. That's a 59-win pace in the games Jaren Jackson Jr. plays. If the Grizzlies keep winning, Jaren Jackson Jr. needs to be in the All-Star game. I don't know who gets kicked out. Lauri Markkanen and his 24 points per game. I don't know. If Anthony Davis isn't voted in, are the Lakers going to get two players? LeBron and AD? I mean, they're both superstars. They're both awesome. It's going to be hard for the coaches to pick Jaren, but maybe they will because the coaches select the reserves. Another guy who, it's just unlucky that he's missed games, and I feel like he would be in the All-Star conversation if it wasn't for those missed games. Obviously, I'm talking about Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane for the season. Desmond Bane averages 21 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. One of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. Elite, three-pointers per game numbers, elite three-point percentage numbers. The Grizzlies are 16-5 when Desmond Bane plays. That's a 62-win pace. But he's not even in the All-Star conversation. I'm trying to get him in there. I mean, if the Grizzlies in with the best record in the West at the All-Star break, and Desmond Bane is averaging 21 points and 4 assists, and have this elite win percentage of over 75% when he plays, it'll be a legit snub. But Desmond Bane is definitely looking himself. He's made 10 threes in the last 3 games. Definitely was flamethrowing in this one. Made 4 out of 5, which was awesome to see. I mean, Ja and Desmond combined for 7 out of 10 three-pointers. The Grizzlies are usually going to win those games, of course. The Grizzlies now have played just 7 games, by the way, when Ja, Des, and Jaren are available. 7 games. 7 games where they have all 3 of those guys. They're halfway through the season. They're tied for the best record in the West, 28-13. 7 of those 41 games, they've had their big 3 available. And by the way, they're 5-2 in those games. The 2 losses Christmas Day, and then the really dispiriting home loss after Christmas Day, returning back home and playing the shorthanded Suns. But 5-2 when those guys are all available. Anyways, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back with some more stats and figures about the Grizzlies. Grizzlies fans in the Nashville or Middle Tennessee area, or even in the Memphis area, don't miss the next Grizzlies Nashville watch party on Friday, January 20th. It's a road game, so come on down if you're in Memphis. Come on down to Noble's Beer Hall. in Nashville for the Grizzlies at Lakers game. It starts at 9 p.m. I will be there. John and Chuck from Fast Break Breakfast will be there. We're going to be giving away a bunch of Grizzlies prizes. Might be giving away some Fast Break Breakfast prizes. It will be a great time. Join other members of Grizzlies Nation and cheer on the Grizzlies as they take on the Lakers. That's Friday, January 20th, 9 p.m. at Noble's Beer Hall in Nashville, Tennessee. All right, a few more stats about this win over the Spurs. The Grizzlies scored 76 points in the first half, which matched their highest total of this season for first half scoring. In their last 5 games now, they're averaging 71 points in first halves, which is remarkable. Of course, as you know, they have a negative net rating in the second halves, scoring about 55 in the second half on average in their last 5 games. One very weird stat from this game. All right, second highest point total, 135 points. They made 14 three-pointers. Despite that, they only recorded 19 assists. This was the Grizzlies' first win of the season when recording fewer than 20 assists. They're 1-6 now when they fail to record 20 assists. There's a few explanations. Some of it is Ja Morant was cooking people one-on-one. A bigger part of it is the Grizzlies had a ton of second chance points. They scored 30 second chance points. They were missing some shots, maybe off the good pass, and then getting their own rebound and putting it back in. Like Ja had a few of these. Ja had 3 offensive rebounds, and I believe he scored after all of them. He had some fun pogo stick putbacks, like he was playing 21. That one-handed one was really cool. But the Grizzlies, I guess, got a bunch of offensive rebounds, so they scored the second chance points. And then, I guess the rest of them were unassisted baskets, which is just strange. Again, normally, if the Grizzlies are making three-pointers, most of those three-pointers you think are the assisted variety. But, I mean, Bane hit some pull-up ones, unassisted. Ja hit some pull-up ones, unassisted. And if you're going to make 50-something buckets, I think they made 52 baskets. Normally, the Grizzlies are going to rack up 30 assists when they do that. But only 19, so that's just a little bit unique. Thought I would point it out. Steven Adams was monstrous in this game. He led the team in assists with 5, but he also had 12 points, 18 rebounds, and 3 blocks. The Spurs did not hack him on purpose to put him on the foul line. He made 1 of his 2 free throw attempts. And I have to highlight the bench where, all right, I know some people are sad that we haven't seen Roddy in the past couple of games because Roddy had been playing so well. But Conchar is so consistent, so solid. And, yeah, he doesn't score, but good stuff just happens when he's on the court. And while the rest of the guys are making their shots, when you don't need the offense, when you don't have to depend on the points from Conchar, perfect complementary player. When Zaire's scoring, it's fine to have Conchar out there. But like Aldama has so much poise. I want to highlight this again. I've said it before in previous episodes. Aldama is great at having situational awareness. And he saves possessions by drawing fouls. We've already talked about if someone puts their hand on him, he does the rip-through move. He's just so aware of shot clock, if the other team or if the Grizzlies are in the bonus. And he saves, or he gives the Grizzlies extra possessions. He puts them at the foul line just by being able to draw fouls. So I've been very impressed by that. Also, I'm more impressed by him continuing to make three-pointers. Like I said, he made both of his three-pointers in this one. And then Tillman, continuing to get the minutes while Brandon Clark is out. Tillman has been a force on the second unit. He gets 8 points and 4 rebounds, also blocked 1 shot. The Grizzlies have a chance to match their franchise record win streak. They play the Pacers on the road on Saturday. Well, it's not an easy game. They play the Suns on MLK Day. Obviously, that's the home game on Monday. If they can win both of those, that's the second double-digit win streak in franchise history. And then you play a home game against the Cavaliers. Very, very good game. And then there's that road game against the Lakers, which is that Nashville Grizzlies watch party / fast break breakfast meetup. That will be the chance, possibly, for the Grizzlies to win their 12th straight game. If the Grizzlies have won 11 straight and you don't come to Noble's Beer Hall to hang out with me to watch the Grizzlies go for the all-time franchise win streak record, I will be so disappointed. But things are looking good for the Grizzlies. They took care of this very soft part of the schedule. I mean, on paper, we hoped it would be a nice little chance for a win streak. Playing, the Hornets, the Magic, the Jazz, the Spurs. They did it. They took care of business. Now it gets a little bit harder. You have teams a little slightly higher quality. I mean, the Suns are going through one right now. No Chris Paul, no Devin Booker, no Cam Johnson. Ayton missed the last couple games. But you got the Pacers, the Suns, the Cavaliers. Then you're going on a road trip, a big road trip. That Lakers game starts the road trip. At Lakers, at Suns, at Kings, at Warriors. Then you have to fly back to the Central Time Zone to play at Timberwolves, which is honestly kind of like a schedule loss. And so can the Grizzlies, now that they're fully healthy, or they're mostly fully healthy, put together just a bunch of impressive wins in a row? I mean, that's the hope. That's the dream. Anyways, I hope you're having a great Thursday. I appreciate all of you who listen to these shows. Please tell other people about the show. Write me a 5-star review in iTunes or on Spotify. You can like the episodes. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz.